Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be going over 15 beginner to intermediate level tips for Deep Rock Galactic. We'll start off with beginner level stuff in the space rig, and then we'll move on into some missions, and I'll have Milligin and Siirvend give you some of their most important tips, and then I'll round it out with a few of my own. So without further ado, let's get started. Our first 5 tips will be pretty simple. They're all going to be in the space rig and more meta related stuff. So first of all, perks. This is the KPI terminal. It stands for Key Performance Indicators. Here you can find the statistics about everything that you've ever done in the game, milestones to unlock perk points, which are basically in-game achievements, and then the perk tree. So to keep it quick and simple, by completing these milestones you get perk points. You can see how many in the top right here. Some are worth more than others, but overall you're going to be getting most of these pretty naturally. These are pretty proportional. Some might give you more than others, but gaining 4 levels on Gunner is going to take longer than doing 2 missions, so it all evens out. So what are these points used for? These points are used to unlock perks. Now there's plenty of perks in this tree, and plenty of good videos have already been made on everything inside of this tree, so I'll stick to the important stuff. Every perk costs a different amount of points. This is an active perk called Field Medic, costs you 3 points. This is a passive perk called Friendly, costs you 2 points. You can see whether a perk is an active or a passive by the color of it. See, for example, Friendly is a red, that means it's a passive. Field Medic is blue, so it's an active. Active perks can have passive effects as well, but don't be confused, this is an active perk. You have a different amount of slots for active and passive perks, and you can unlock more as you level up. At the end of the game, you're going to have 3 passive slots and 2 active slots. So how do you get those additional passive slots? Those are both inside of this tree. You can see this star right here is a new passive perk slot. It will cost you a whopping 15 points, but it is highly, highly worth it. And if we scroll all the way over to the right, we can see the 3rd passive perk slot is here as well for 20 stars. These should be your largest priority when unlocking perks. Obviously this one's going to take some time to get to, but the first passive perk slot is a high priority. Now if you want to rush for this upgrade, here's what you need to do. You need to focus on buying the cheapest perks in every tier to get to the next tier. You can tell by the amount of arrows in between the tiers how many perks you need to purchase to reach the next tier. So if I purchase 3 perks in this tier, I'll be able to start purchasing perks in the 2nd tier. Additional perks that you purchase in an earlier tier will count. So if I was to purchase all 6 perks in the 1st tier, that would allow me to get to the 3rd tier, as it only takes 3 and 3 to get to the 3rd tier. So theoretically, you should buy all of these perks and the next 4 cheapest perks in the 2nd tier in order to get to the passive perk slot as quickly as possible. Although don't sacrifice picking up perks that you actually want and need to use in order to do this. So finding a good blend of what you value and what you need while also staying thrifty and getting to the passive perk slot is very important. Moving on. Early game, credits and minerals are very tight, so please be careful with the cosmetic shop. A good beard will help you win missions, but a skin tone that costs you nearly 7,000 credits is not really worth it in my opinion. Plenty of cosmetics are highly affordable even early on in the game, costing hundreds of credits merely, and rarely any minerals early on. However, just watch out for the big budget things like this that may blend in when you can afford them. If both of these numbers were white, you may haphazardly click on this without realizing how much it was about to cost you. Now, moving over to the equipment terminal, let's take a look at the armor mastery. Every weapon in the game, as well as some other things, have mastery unlocks. So as you purchase upgrades for the weapon, you'll see these mastery tabs at the bottom tick along. So for this weapon, whenever I buy 3 upgrades, I will unlock the first stripe paint job. Now note that these are unlocked upgrades in general, not just ones that I can use. So, for example, these mods are both purchased now. I can switch between them freely without paying any fee, or unequip them entirely. These both contribute to the overall progress in this bar. Like I said, this is on every weapon in the game, unlocks weapon skins for those weapons. All fine and good. However, much more importantly, on your set of armor, the same principle applies. Buying upgrades moves your bar along. However, the mastery unlock for the armor is +5 health, and this can occur 3 separate times. So you want to purchase every possible mod on your armor, even the ones you aren't going to be using. Doing this will give you plus 5 health with 3, plus 5 health with 6, and finally plus 5 health with 9 mods purchased. This is highly important. As soon as you get to level 15, you should purchase all of these mods and all the earlier ones. Fourth, always be on an assignment. This is easy to do early on in the game, as you'll start on a very long assignment to get you through all the orientation stuff and unlock all the mission types, but after that, this board will be populated by a whole number of other assignments. Basically, don't worry about what the contents of them are too much, aside from the going lethal assignment, which will require you to play on Hazard 4. If you aren't ready for that, don't worry about it, but any other assignment that you have, you should automatically equip immediately upon finishing your previous assignment. Assignment missions will be marked on the map with a diamond, and completing these missions will progress your assignment. Assignments unlock all manner of things: crafting minerals, extra credits, pickaxe parts, cosmetics, new mission types, and anything in between. So making sure you get all assignments done as soon as possible is very important. They're also the key to promotions, which will be tip number 5. Promote fast. Although I highly recommend everyone try every class as soon as possible so they can find what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and become a more well-rounded dwarf, you should absolutely pick a class that you like and play it to level 25 as quickly as possible and complete your promotion assignment. All of the in-game content in this game is locked behind promotion, so getting a promotion as soon as possible is highly important. A good majority of the endgame content is also locked behind a weekly reset system, so basically time-gated content. While none of this content is missable, in that all the content will always be obtainable, you will miss out on opportunities to get more of this time-gated content by not being at level 25 each week, and promoting, I should say. Every Thursday is when that reset happens, so if you can push out your promotion on a Tuesday night, that might be a very good idea. Promoting will give you access to your second active perk slot, the deep dive terminal, and the forge for weapon overclocks and cosmetic cores. Like I said, all of this stuff is key core in-game content, so get to that stuff absolutely as soon as possible. Now let's get into some more gameplay related tips. Mainly I'm going to let Milligin and Siirvend take over for this part. So first, I'll turn it over to Siirvend for his tips.
Use both your weapons. Try to keep ammo consumption even on both of these, as well as your tools and grenades, so you get maximum value from resupplies. Plan ahead for swarms. Make sure you have a defensible place in mind to run when attacked. Clear in the way obstacles and debris from good fighting areas too. And don't get caught off a cliff 200 meters from the team when mission control warns you a swarm is coming. Please, as a PSA, stop using Iron Will when there's no dire need. It's fine to bring, just don't waste it. I don't care if you're embarrassed by going down from that hilarious fall you took. Wasting the one-time use to save a few seconds before being revived means you'd probably be better off with a different perk altogether. Prioritize not dying. I know it sounds stupid, but the best way to survive a horrible situation, especially one where you're the last dwarf standing, is to focus on avoiding death, even if it means running from danger rather than standing your ground. It may not look brave to run from a group of bugs, but your teammates will appreciate it. Always be pinging problem bugs. The best way to keep track of dodgy enemies for yourself and your team is to ping them with your laser pointer, especially in the chaos of a big swarm. Those shellbacks can be sneaky.
Also, look up at the ceiling.
Thank you, Sirv. Now, Milligin. Milligin has less tips, but they're a lot more deep and analyzed. So, please listen and try to take something away from it.
Hey guys, this is Milligin. Here are my 3 essential tips for DRG. Tip number 1. Always run. As hazards scale up, enemy stats increase. A bunch of factors are changing, but to list a few, enemies get healthier, do more damage to players, and move faster. Of all the changes, it's their speed that can cause some players to have no problems on one difficulty, and find the next level higher to be almost impossible. The reason is that players can position well enough with enemies approaching at a certain rate, but kicking it up will cause them to get overrun. Your character moves almost 50% faster when running versus when they are walking. This limits the amount of enemies that can catch you to a small handful, and drastically increases the chance that you'll dodge a projectile. Just be aware that eventually you'll have to turn back and fight. The bugs will keep chasing or continue to give your team a hard time. Create distance between the enemy to stay safe. and then resolve the fight so you can continue to make progress on the mission. Tip number 2. Prioritize fallen allies. There are so many good reasons to do this. First and foremost, everyone is there to have a good time. Getting everyone back on their feet keeps the action moving forward and lets everyone do their part. What's really important to note here is that the game gets substantially more difficult with more players being down. In every mission type, a total team wipe is a mission failure. Every team member down is another step closer to a loss. Having people up increases your odds of survival. The other thing to keep in mind is that the game doesn't pull punches when people are down. The scaling is set for the number of people in the lobby. It will keep pushing out threats for that many players, despite how many are alive at any given time. Whether or not you trust that your teammate can get you out of the situation you're in, it's in your best interest to pick them up. Now, you don't want to dive headlong into any situation, chance to revive and then also die. You'll have to exercise caution when picking someone up if things are intense. Try to identify a player who looks safest or most reasonable to retrieve and start there. Sometimes it will be too dangerous to dive in. Times like that will require patience and thinning out some of the threats, but still keep the down player as the focus of what you're doing. There will be risks and there will be losses that result from trying to pick up a spiraling team, but those are better games than ones where you'd put the weight of the world on your shoulders and don't pull it off. Tip number 3. Practice. Now, I know it may come across as an obvious tip, sort of a non-tip, but hear me out. This is a casual game, designed to have some fun with friends and fight against alien bugs. That doesn't mean it won't also have some steep challenges. The game is always working against you. On the higher difficulties, it is throwing a set of diverse enemies against you, often to test you and try to set you back or wipe your team. There are numerous unique threats from bosses to events that are a challenge on their own, and, from time to time, overlap to cause a very serious threat to a team that is not prepared. This combined with the cave's layout and your traversal of it create almost endless unique situations, testing your team on how they'll react to whatever comes next. If you can identify a particular enemy, event, mission type, or situation that keeps giving you trouble, you're on the right track to master it. Find ways to engage with the thing you're struggling with, whether by seeking it out or recognizing it when it comes up naturally. Take this opportunity to try different tactics or strategies until you find something that works for you. Overcoming challenges like this is what drew me into DRG when I first started playing, and it's something that keeps the game fun for me after these many hours of play. Many of the challenges are a puzzle, and if you don't particularly feel like solving one of them, it's great to ask for help. The DRG community is full of veteran players who will be able to relate to many of the struggles you come across in the game. If you feel like something isn't working for you, reach out to fellow players to see what works for them. Thanks.
Now for my last 2 tips. If there's anything I've learned over all my time playing this game, which is quite a bit at this point, is that my attitude has greatly shifted towards weapons and ammo economy upgrades. On most weapons in the game, you have choices to make between better damage and more ammo, as well as things like recoil control, accuracy, fire rate, but predominantly let's talk about ammo and damage. So what I've come to realize about these modifications and how they interact with each other is your weapons are only as strong as the damage that they can put out. Meaning you can take potentially too much damage and run out of ammo too quickly, but on the other side of that same coin, you can take more ammo than damage and shoot yourself in the foot by not being able to effectively put that damage out of your guns in a timely manner. Some of the most prolific examples of this, in my opinion, are mini shells for the Warthog shotgun on the Engineer, and also on the Engineer taking 1 turret instead of 2. Both of these kind of fit this narrative. As mini shells, you have so much ammo it's hard to even shoot it all, and having 1 turret can only put out rounds half as fast as having 2 turrets. So I challenge you to, in your future gameplay and whenever you go back to tweak your builds, is to think of your weapons less as something that always needs to be ready to put out rounds at a moment's notice, regardless of how much damage it can deal, but instead as a funnel in which to force your ammo and damage through in the fastest time possible. Once again, don't have so little ammo that it's easy to deplete it all, but make sure that the ammo that you do have can be expended in a meaningful amount of time to achieve an impactful result. And my last tip will be something that was brought to my attention by someone else, and ever since then I've been reflecting on it very heavily, which is the way that I play the macro game, meaning completing the objectives and always doing something to progress the mission. And this tip is basically that. At all times, you want to be doing something that's bringing you closer to the completion of the mission, meaning juggling objectives while fighting, mining while killing bugs. Anything that you can do to get your team to the drop pod quicker and more efficiently should be your main objective. As an extremely new player, you may want to take things a little bit slower and not go at full tilt all the time while you're still learning the game, but I challenge everyone who is comfortably playing on a difficulty that they feel like they can always win to accelerate things a little bit. Push yourself faster than you think that you can complete the objectives and see how you do. Pull 3 eggs instead of 2. Call the drop pod in the middle of a machine event. Stop pre-drilling escorts. Things like that. Take it little steps at a time to begin with, but I think you'll find opportunities for growth and challenge in places that you might not have previously. But that about does it for new player tips for Deep Rock Galactic. I tried to do a good blend of new player content and also more experienced player content in this one, as my previous tip videos have been almost entirely beginner content focused. If you have some tips that you'd like to offer to new players, please leave them in the comment section below. And likewise, if you're a new player, go ahead and check it out down there. I'm sure there's going to be some very valuable stuff. I'll try to pin and heart as many of them as I can. Before we go, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Milligin and Siirvend for helping me out with this video. Absolutely added a lot of flavor to this. Getting different players' takes and information about what they think is highly important in the flow of the game was very enlightening to me. And I hope you got something valuable from them as well. All of the links for Milligin and Siirvend will be down in the description below, so please go check them out. They make a very unique style of DRG content that I think you'll probably enjoy if you like my style of content as well. But that about wraps things up for today. If you'd like to catch me live, you can find me over on Twitch. If you'd like to talk to me or any of my community members, you can find us over on Discord. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.